show Energy Work, and I'm here to talk to you today about alchemizing porn addiction. The purpose of the video, if you haven't checked it out yet, you can go check out the other video Kirti and me did about porn addiction, and that was just kind of sharing a little bit of my own journey. Kirti was asking me some questions about that, about my relationship to porn and what my journey has been with it. And in this video, I want to go over some different things that I think may be helpful, share some of my best practices that have helped me on my journey. And it may or may not resonate with you. Again, there's always the shopping cart method. If something resonates with you, if it feels like home to you, then go ahead and take it off the shelf. And if not, just leave it there and take what works for you. So, but the purpose of the video is to share some insights that I have come to over the years of with my interactions with porn, and then also a couple of best practices, really simple things that you'll be able to start implementing right away to have a different relationship with porn. So with that being said, why is this important though? I think the main reason is because if we think of it like this, and one thing I say off top, just to kind of set a foundation with it, a lot of us come from Puritan or religious backgrounds, so we may have some, we have this love-hate or this guilt-shame relationship with our own sensuality and sexuality. And so the way that shows up is like, as it relates to porn, is like we definitely may be attracted to it, and like, we want to see this, this play out of the sexual energy, especially if we're not in the place right now where we're doing it ourselves. The thing is, though, in that process is to not have judgment on ourselves and having guilt and shame about that. It's a very primal part of our being, and as I'll go into later in this video, there's reasons why we have these urges and impulses, and to not shed a judgment on it, because when we put a judgment on it, one of the masters that I learned, or helped me remember my tantric Taoist self, my own sensuality. One of the things that he said that really stood out to me was that when we judge something, it never reveals its secrets to us. So if we're passing a judgment on ourselves for having these impulses and having these urges, then guess what? We'll never learn the secrets of why is it that we even have these things. Because I do believe I've seen another video, another gentleman talk about porn having been weaponized. I do believe that is the case in some ways, like that there is this thing to hypersexualize the masses for those of us who allow it to be so. And I'll maybe go into that a little bit more in this video or later on, but I do think it has been weaponized to the point to be another distraction for us. So again, not passing a judgment on it. I'm just saying objectively, without a lot of emotional charge to it. Just looking at this almost like is I guess as clear and intellectually as we can, using our intellect with that, is that it may just be a distraction from other things that we're looking to do. If we want to speak in a more esoteric way, is that our mind thinks in part in pictures, and so with images. And so with that being said, if we think in images and we have a bunch of images that we're constantly having our stream that have nothing to do with what we're here on the planet to do. They have nothing to do with what you're calling in and what your own individual experiences are going to be. If they're not in alignment with that, then it is ultimately a distraction. And it's something that is kind of an energy leak at that point. Again, not coming from a place of judgment, guilt, shame, none of that shit. Just saying that it's not, maybe your computer, if you will, then it's not running at its optimum. If we're running a bunch of these images in our mind constantly, when we're looking to ruminate and manifest a different way of being, or call things into our life. And this video is geared mainly towards men. I do know that there are some women who struggle or who are challenged around porn watching, especially since we live in a toxic masculinity culture. So more women are actually finding their sexuality where they're expressing kind of in a what might be considered a toxic masculine way, because there's so much toxic masculinity even in the feminine now at this point. But I'll make also another video that'll be a little bit more geared towards the ladies or towards the feminine, and that'll be one about romantic fantasies, because that's really how a lot of women are called in, and their energy is distracted, their sensual energy is distracted, is by romantic fantasies. With guys, with the masculine, it tends to not be so much a romantic thing. Again, and I'm being general, right? There's always, we have a full spectrum of experiences. God expresses his way in all of us, in all different beings, in different ways with our sensuality and sexuality. So I'm being very general. But it tends to not show up that way for guys, though. It's not a whole bunch of romantics shit to it. It's like just wanting to see a nice ass up in the air and a pretty face down in the pillow or something like that, right? And that may sound very crude. I guess maybe we can have that judgment on it, if we will. But again, it's just a primal thing. So let's go a little bit into this. So one thing that we want to get clear on as far as the judgment aspect of this goes is the gatekeeper. And my love Kirti, she says something very potent about the gatekeeper. I'm talking about that part of our being that says what we should pay attention to or focus on, and or what we should allow into our superconscious or to the feminine part of ourselves. This, if you want to think of it like a hive, these are this is the energy that protects the hive, protects the queen. Or we're talking about the gatekeeper of our white blood cells, or the cell membrane around our cells. We want the motherfuckers to have some masculine energy to them and protect that which is inside from the outside, to draw a border, to be distinct about what can enter and what cannot. So it does serve a purpose. As it relates to our mind, though, as far as like with porn, we want to make sure that we're in a place of equipping the gatekeeper in our being to distinguish what experiences would be best for us and what would not. And if we properly program it, then it may make a different distinction when it comes to porn. I'll go into the gatekeeper a little bit more too in another video that I have coming up about particles and waves and how we go into our sub and super conscious. But I just wanted to put that little bit in there as well. So let's get in a little bit into why do we watch porn. Before I go into some of the best practices or things that I've done to actually alchemize it and transmute it, why are some of the reasons that we actually watch porn? One of the things that I would say, and again, I'll speak from my own experience and see if it feels true for yourself, is, let's say if we're pulling a little bit on some misogynistic energy. So misogyny, I believe, means more or less the hate of women. It may not be to the level where we actually hate women, but maybe we've taken some rejections, and because we haven't known how to circulate the energy or to how to reframe it and frame it in a way that actually works for us, we take those rejections, and now there's some anger around it. Now there's some frustration. There's some charge. There's an ion around it, and because we don't do the things to transmute that energy, it can actually come across in a way that frustrates our organ system. It frustrates the chakra system, if you will, the bio electromagnetic field that's around us. The energy is not flowing properly, and what happens is the energy gets stuck in the genital area or maybe in the gut area, and what's going to happen then is that we're now looking to express ourselves either through masturbation or watching porn for the point of to watch it to masturbate. So just more succinctly said, one of the things that leads us to porn sometimes, and I found it to be my thing, is not properly understanding rejection, not properly understanding why the feminine may not be choosing you. And really, what the feminine really is doing is she's really calling us a lot of times to get more clear, to have more clarity about what it is that we want, whether it be in our own life, our life purpose, what we want from the feminine. You know, we're approaching the feminine, but we're not even clear about what we even really want from her. And then also, it may also be calling us to just up level a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like if we're stepping to the feminine and all we can think to do is to use her body, more or less like a blow up doll, she may be calling for us to step it up some. You know, and I'll say this about the feminine, like, and I'll do another video going deeper into this, but asking the woman to disassociate herself and to distance herself, you know, do the Heisman on her emotions and her feelings, is kind of like, and you know, in other words, just to have sex with no strings attached, or to have sex with no feelings. And we get, you know, tripped out with the woman, especially if you put some good sex on her. And if you put good sex, it's going to open the heart. It's going to open the heart. So if we open the heart, you know, through having good sex, and then we get tripped out that, you know, she's quote unquote catching feelings, one thing I say is like, well, why aren't we? If we had this amazing experience with this person and we put a part of our body into her body and she received it, how come we're not catching any feelings? Did we ever question that? Like, why don't we catch feelings? That's one thing. And then the other thing is like asking the feminine to disassociate and distance herself from her feelings is kind of like saying that I want to go swimming, but I don't want to get wet. It's kind of like saying that I want to go swimming, but I don't want to get wet. The nature of the feminine is to feel. The nature of the feminine is to love. The nature of the feminine is to attach. The nature of the feminine is to nurture. So what we're basically asking the feminine to be is not to be feminine. Think on that. So part of our attraction to porn in some instances is just a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding, a misoverstanding of the feminine and exactly what it is and how it operates. So that's something for us to think on. It's something that's for us to feel into, is that we may be attracted to this idea of just taking the feminine, first of all, putting her up on the auction block, you know, as we're searching through and looking for whatever physical traits we've a lot of times been programmed to want also. Many times it's not even necessarily our own nature, because the more that we go into our own feminine, the more that we go into then the gatekeeper have a little bit, you know, less discriminating as far as its program. We're going to find that we don't have like she must have these measurements and she's got to be this. A lot of that will go out the window. We'll start finding just the feminine expression more and more attractive, and that may be in a thicker woman or a short, like different things that we may not associate usually with our rational mind with attractive. We may actually find that narrow thing of what we call a dime or a beautiful woman, that spectrum may get more broad as we allow the gatekeeper to relax a little bit and enjoy its time on the job rather than being so staunch about what it is that it finds attractive. So it's just something to think on. And going back to the idea of not understanding the feminine is like, and that's something that we want to get clear on, is like, what is it that we're attracted to about the feminine, and what is it that we're wanting out of this relating? And again, if we're going into it just wanting to have sex, what I would ask you to do is to take a different look and not just look at it as lowercase sex, and maybe think about the acronym that I use is sensual emotional exchange. and sex is the sensual is the physical. So as the masculine, we're wanting her body. We're wanting we wanting to be felt, and we wanting to feel her. But guess what? She plays another game. She's at a different level. She's what she's bringing to the table is not just her physical. She's bringing this emotional component that many of us masculine, many of the men and the masculine on the planet is not even aware really even exists really. So she's bringing that to the table to be felt. And if we can allow ourselves to feel that, then the whole idea of just having quote unquote sex or doing stuff that we see on the porn, it kind of goes out the window. So let's just take a couple of moments to look at a couple of things that are emotions that are associated with, that may be adding to our porn addiction and everything. The three major emotions that may be expressed and they can be alchemized are anger, frustration in general, like just say we're frustrated with life, our job, whatever it is, where we think that we should be in life. If any of these things are going on, if there's just a general frustration or sexual frustration, if we're not feeling like we're having all of the experiences that we want to have sexually, these are things that can stop the flow of energy, again, in the physical body, in the organ systems, and then also in the emotional body, or the auric field, the bioelectrical field. And those are associated with the liver. So that would be one area, is the liver. And then let's say also another one, I think for some people, is fear. Because we're afraid to actually go after what we want. And if we find another person, another, say a woman, beautiful, and we see her every day at work, but we never go over and speak to her, that's affecting our energy system. Okay? So that fear is going to build up after a while, and that actually too is going to cause the energy not to flow, and eventually we may find ourselves looking for other expressions, and we're living vicariously through the porn star. He's not sexually frustrated. He's going after for what he wants, so we're living vicariously through the male porn star in some instances. So that's two areas, and the fear is associated with the kidneys. It's associated with the kidneys. So that would be two areas, the two main areas that we would look at, that we can do different things to address that. Before I forget too, I also want to just talk about a couple biological things that may be going on as well. One is, about the foods that we eat. I know for myself, if I eat a lot of sugar, it'll cloud my mind up. Another one is, maybe fried foods, things that are harder to digest. And then maybe late, heavy eating. All of these things are going to maybe add to a perfect storm. They may not be one thing that would cause us to have more porn addiction, but it could be something that would be another thing that leads to like a perfect storm of it. And one other thing too, going back to the emotions, is look for associations. This is something I found on my path, is that if there are triggers, if there's something that happens that is associated with a certain a past moment or something that was our energy was frustrated in, or if there's patterns of, like, say, we associate a surge of sexual energy and feeling good, but it's associated with watching porn. So anytime we feel good, we might actually go watch porn. It might not even be a frustration thing. It may just be a pattern, a groove that the porn is now associated with. And what we have to do is we have to awaken our awareness system, or what Western medicine still calls the nervous system. We have to awaken our awareness system for the energy to now flow into other places. And these are things that we can do. So, and ending and wrapping up this video, because we can go a while on this, and I'll probably do other videos on this too, but this is hopefully some things that you may find helpful. Let's end with a couple of things that we can do. I told you I wanted to give you some solutions. So in this video, let's go into just some really simple things. If we're feeling frustrated, and this is what we're being called for, if we want to actually start alchemizing that porn addiction energy, is to be very mindful and aware and in our bodies. When I say aware, I mean having a mental awareness of what is emotionally and physically going on in our bodies. So taking our mental to go deeper into our body is like, if we're feeling frustrated, be on top of that shit. And if we're feeling frustration, anger, sexual frustration, pat your liver. That may sound stupid, you know, like, oh, how's that gonna help me with porn addiction? It helps spread the energy. And if we think of this energy as like, think how small an ant is. Well, a cell is way smaller than a ant, and then an atom is way smaller than a cell. And a particle of a subatomic particle that makes up an atom is even smaller than an atom, so we're told. So patting your liver on a quantum level, on a subatomic or atomic level, I wouldn't even say it's an earthquake, because it's even more vast than that. It's like a solar system, if you will, being, as far as how you're spreading the energy out. So start thinking on that, on those terms. So you just gently patting your liver. For most people, anatomically, it's going to be on our right side, underneath our rib cage and our stomach area, on the right hand side, to the right to the navel. And then also do the same thing with your kidneys. Patting the energy, you know, just gently knocking on your kidneys a little bit. We can also do liver or kidney qigong. I'm going to do some videos here soon on liver and kidney qigong. But in the meantime, I'll post some other people that I know do some pretty dope versions of it that will be helpful. I'll put that in the link down below. So yeah, that's basically everything that I wanted to say on this video. One other thing too I want to go into, though, is the shadow of sensuality, and I'll do a deeper video on this. Is that some of us that are really into porn and stuff like that, you may have a calling to use your sensuality more in your relationships, your relationship or ships. There may be a calling for you to actually be more of a healer with it. Doesn't mean that you may have clients or anything, but just in your own personal life, that may be why we're so amped up, is because there's something being called in us to use the sensuality in ourselves, for ourselves, and then for our lover or lovers to heal, or to heal them in ourselves. So that may be one other thing that is calling us to porn. But like many things in this culture, this deaf culture that we live in Western society, a lot of things have been tainted, they've been twisted, they've been distorted. So in the root, is nothing wrong with it. It's a very primal thing. It's a very natural thing. But now it's a hybrid. Now it has other shit added to it. We got some 5G fucking broadcast going into it, changing what it really naturally is. Side note with that too. Last thing I'll say on this with the porn addiction thing too. And if you watch the porn addiction video that Kirti and me did, you'll see that I said this as well. So as we're alchemizing this too, just also realize that a lot of energy is being sent out through our 3G, 4G, 5G networks, with these computers and Wi-Fi and all these things hitting our cells, and they are being bombarded with these images and the sounds of porn just literally being up in the airways, is in the air. And so we're in a soup of that all of the time. You know, you best believe that if you're in a neighborhood or an apartment complex, someone in that apartment complex or housing community, whatever, if you're in a building at work even, somebody's probably fucking watching porn, you know? And so hopefully if it's for you, though, maybe that won't be you anymore, right? So with that being said, y'all, I appreciate you tuning in. If this video resonated with you, if you liked it, please like, subscribe, share. Leave a comment down below. What other ideas or things do you think on alchemizing porn addiction? What have you found works for you? Where are you at on that journey? Are you doing a NoFap? For myself, I had said in the last video that it was 9 months. I hadn't watched porn. It actually was 8. It was 8. I went back and recounted. It was 8. But that's still the longest stretch that I've gone. And I'm getting much better at when I have these surges of sexual and sensual energy. Even if I'm not with Kirti and I don't have that outlet as far as because like I said in the last video, I don't really do masturbation too much. To be able to still circulate the energy to do the microcosmic orbit, that's another thing. Do your microcosmic orbit. I'll put a video on that too to help the energy to make its orbit, to make its circuit around your body. That also is a very strong exercise so that the energy doesn't build up just in the genital area. All right, y'all. Definitely appreciate y'all. Again, I'm Shofar from Faux Show Energy Work, and I do coaching for singles and couples, for couples and singles. I also do energy work. Kirti and me do energy work for couples and singles. And I have a book, Soul Sacred Orgasmic Living. I do a series of workshops. Right now, while we're going through, right now it's April 2020. So right now we're doing a lot of those offerings online too. So we have a workshop series called Hip Hop Kundalini, and then also Intimate Relating. And if any of that sounds good to you, if you want to know more about any of those things, just you can reach out to me on Instagram, or again, my information is on my website. I appreciate y'all. Y'all keep shining, keep climbing, y'all. Peace.